An Atacms missile priced at $1.5 million is considerably cheaper than a Storm Shadow missile, costing approximately $3.2 million. The Himars launch platform of the Atacms is much cheaper than the Sukhoi 24M launch platform of the Storm Shadow. The Himars can launch an Atacms from just about anywhere. The Sukhoi 24M operates from an airbase that can be easily located and struck with more certainty than a mobile Himars. M270 Himars that launch Atacms feature only one launch tube, but they do not look any different from the 6-tube M142 Himars launchers already supplied to Ukraine. An Atacms launch container has a lid patterned with 6 circles, like a standard MLRS rocket lid, but contains only one missile. The subterfuge makes it more challenging for enemy intelligence to single it out as a high-value target. The Atacms features a 230 kg warhead, which is much smaller and less destructive than the 450 kg warhead of the Storm Shadow. The 300 km range of the Atacms is much less than the 550 km range of the Storm Shadow. Atacms use GPS-aided inertial navigation guidance to strike their targets. They have no seeker to accurately home to their target. The Storm Shadow features an optical seeker for terminal homing that can see and recognize its target. As such, a Storm Shadow missile is more accurate. The ballistic trajectory of the Atacms is predictable. Therefore, an Atacms is much more easier to intercept than a Storm Shadow. Russia has had a fair amount of success in intercepting Himars rockets. It is likely that it will have much better success in intercepting Atacms. Notwithstanding the cons listed in the above comparison, the supply of Atacms to Ukraine will pose a big challenge to Russian forces, because Atacms launchers are very difficult to detect and destroy. It's likely that Ukrainian forces will leverage the longer range of the Atacms not to strike deep behind the battlefront, but to strike all along the battlefront. Just 4 M270 Himars with Atacms will be able to cover the entire 1,000 km battlefront. Wider coverage will take precedence over deeper coverage. Leveraging space and air-based ISR capabilities of the US and NATO Ukrainian forces will be able to detect any accumulation of Russian soldiers or equipment along the entire battlefront and destroy it in quick time with Atacms launches. Positioning artillery guns or MLRS within range to attack the accumulation takes much longer. Russia's ability to mount a counteroffensive against Ukraine may well be completely compromised. Russia's vaunted air defense systems will be forced to move back to stay out of Atacms range to an extent where it will likely not be possible for Russia to exercise air dominance along the battlefront. The pushback will allow Ukrainian attack fighters and helicopters to operate closer to the battlefront and provide close air support to Ukrainian troops, something that they cannot do now. Russian armed helicopter operations along the battlefront, which have been critical in thwarting the Ukrainian counteroffensive so far, will lose effectiveness because they will have to operate under the threat of missile attacks from Ukrainian fighters. Russia's air dominance may completely disappear when Ukraine operationally deploys its F-16Es. Russia will be forced to move its supply depots and field headquarters deeper behind the battlefront to keep them out of Atacms range. In turn, Russian supply lines will become more vulnerable to attack by Ukrainian barreled and rocket artillery, attack helicopters, FPV, and loitering kamikaze drones. A lot will, of course, depend on the number of M270 launchers and Atacms supplied to Ukraine. It's likely that the numbers that the US can spare are limited. Also, Russian forces have repeatedly demonstrated their ability to adapt to any new infusion of US technology without losing the plot in any way.